There's that Norman
better.
Cook fade out.
It's getting better. It's getting better. That was much better than last time. That was better than last week.
Definitely. It's
better than last week because I'm back.
Well, it's about time. Hey? I mean, it's three's a crowd.
I was thinking I was just going to be, I'm like, I don't really want to, jump in with Ted again, but you know what I mean? But then I thought, look, someone's got to tell, the table is lying. The table is lying. The table is lying. The table is lying.
I can't see Middlesbrough there. Is it?
The table is lying.
Yes, they're behind Ted the Mackham. They're behind
the table is lying.
It is not. Look at that.
Honestly, what a start. I wouldn't have predicted it in a million years that Regis Hammondur would do that. One thing I want to ask you, Ted, and I know it's your show, so I'm just gonna be the annoying Rye to start off with that you guys missed, all right? And then I'm going to leave you alone and let you do your thing, all right? Because I love you and I miss you. Plus, I'm better looking than you, okay? I'm younger, okay? Give it to me. This is what I want to ask you, okay? Reggie Labrie, right? Yep. Obviously has had a fantastic start.
Labrie.
I'm sorry, what?
Regis Labrie.
Oh, I thought you sneezed. I was going to say bless you. In the last game where you beat Portsmouth 3-1, right?
Yep.
He said the following, all right? And I've got to bring it up and I've got it saved here. He identified that he's not sure how Sunderland still play. I want to ask you if this gives you any. So this just made me whinge a bit. He said, "We are happy for sure because it was a tough game and I think the game plan was good, but it's not always easy to apply." That makes sense.
Yep.
I don't know if we're a team who wants to control the game or wants to create chances or who wants to create an unbalance in the opponent's defense. That part of our game actually isn't our best. I'm not sure also if we want to be the kind of team that has 20, 30, 40, maybe 50 passes in the first half. This still isn't clear. I think away especially, maybe the solution might be defense. If you're able to attract the opponent, recover the ball, and then fast attack and counter-attack, maybe that's the way we go forward. I don't know. I'm still working it out. I ad-libbed the I don't know. He didn't say that, but I just felt like that whole, it feels like he's still unsure. But yet you're 4 from 4.
Yeah. And I think that's reason to be excited enough. I think if you listen to him, he talks like a student of the game. He really kind of analyzes every single.
What you said last week.
I said it last week. I didn't get as much stick for that as I thought I was going to get, to be honest, Steve. But I get Wenger vibes from him in the fact that he absolutely studies every single aspect of the game, and I get it. There are aspects of the game where you kind of think we do invite the opposition on a little bit, but then there's other areas of the game where we really go for that high press and force mistakes from teams. Burnley, for one, couldn't live with that, with the high press at all. It was very much in their face. Obviously, it's a home game, so you've got the crowd on your side. So it makes probably more sense than what it sounds like initially. I know it's the bear in mind, English isn't the guy's first language, so he's kind of got to translate that's what he's thinking.
Yeah.
So I think it's reason to be excited. He's still fathoming the team out. There's an influx of players that we signed on deadline day that have got to be incorporated into the team. So I think it's reasons to be optimistic. We're still fathoming out what kind of side we are. I think there are games like Leeds away, let's say, for instance, where that in-your-face kind of high press is maybe a little bit adventurous at this stage. I don't think we've got the playing staff just yet to be able to go and deliver that week in, week out and give everybody a problem, because there are teams out there, there are good sides in this championship, without a shadow of a doubt. And some of them will find you out if you go for a high press. So I'm not worried about Middlesbrough. They won't start playing till Christmas anyway.
They've already started giving presents away.
We don't need to.
Love it. Absolutely. Oh, wow. Oh, you picked a week to come back, didn't you? But speaking of the transfer deadline day, lads, this news came out after we did the last show, so we couldn't really talk about it. Do you know who we were linked with and actually almost got over the line, only we couldn't agree on
Yes.
personal terms.
I saw this. This is wild.
Incredible. Naby Keita.
Yeah.
Former £3 million midfielder, ex-Liverpool.
Can you believe it?
Unreal. And apparently we're very close to getting him. But to be honest, given his suspension record, given his fitness, which has never been great, I'm kind of happy we didn't. I think it's one of them that would have upset the balance. So the first thing I want to ask you lads today, and we'll start with Rye, Steve, because he really should be talking and make up for the time he's there.
In fact, we should just say nothing. We should say nothing for the next 55 minutes.
Isn't that normal when I'm back?
Great content. No, is there a player that you're happy you didn't sign, right? I know it's a bit of a tricky one to throw at you, but one of those where you've been linked to them and you think, oh, thank God we didn't get him, because that would have upset like for instance, a bit of a Nicholas Anelka type who's going to kind of upset the balance of the team. So people you're happy you didn't sign.
Geez, there's a few. I can see a few people popping in the chat, and I think the one that's a good one there is Tom Cannon. I honestly didn't think he was going to fit in at all. And maybe we were linked with. There's a certain goalkeeper that we were linked with just before we went and got Senny Dieng. So we got Tom Glover over the line last transfer window here, Borough fans as well, where we had obviously all the exodus. We had, I think, 12, 13 players had to come in because we had all these lone stars and stuff like that. At that time, I thought trying to get Cameron Archer was one that we were chasing. And Cameron Archer he'd actually had a fantastic little run for us, obviously, since the January loan signing. At that point, I think every Borough fan was crazy about Cameron Archer. Seeing Cameron Archer in the past 12 months at the Premier League level and now at Southampton in a permanent, I'm kind of okay that we didn't get him. I'm kind of okay with it we'd get him. And I think that's going to shock a few Borough fans, because Cameron Archer would probably be at the top of a lot of people's wish lists at Borough, I would say, because of the furore he had in that short time at our club. But I'm actually quite happy we didn't get him, because I think he hasn't really hit the mark since leaving us. So yeah, Cameron Archer, Tom Cannon, definitely. They're two that spring to mind in the most recent times.
What about yourself, Steve? Because I mean, I can think back to the days when Dennis Wise was looking after your transfer business. There's probably a few you wish hadn't come to the club, but ones that you're happy that didn't, mate.
Yeah, I mean, as daft as it might sound, maybe Mark Gahey, because of the whole price debacle. The fact that, he was priced at 65 million and then it was 65 million, 70 million, 75 million. We seem to be going to the outer limits. And part of me feels that Newcastle may well go back in for him in January and get him at a cheaper price. I'm not sure they'll do business with Palace or Palace will do business with us. There seems to be some kind of little, thing going on there between Parish and our football club. But maybe you'd rather not have him if you're going to pay over the odds. Obviously, PSR, as we know, causes Newcastle no end of trouble. I guess the other one is probably Ivan Toney, because we did make a late bid for him on the last day. I still think that Ivan Toney would have been wrong for the club. I'd have much preferred a Tammy Abrahams to come in, somebody who hasn't got the kind of baggage that Ivan Toney's got. I would have liked a proven centre forward, but I just don't think Toney was the answer. Alanga would have been interesting as well. Obviously, a last day bid for him, but the Newcastle tack kicked in. He was probably priced around 30 million. I think when Newcastle showed an interest, they were quoted 45, 50. So again, Newcastle aren't going to be held to ransom. So probably those three names in particular are the ones that stand out. I think the one that got away from me is probably, I was speaking to a few Newcastle fans about this, for £12 million, Chiesa must have been worth a gamble. I'm not sure what his wages are, but Liverpool got a player there who ultimately would be able to come in at some point, if they got an injury to Salah, for example, and do a job. He's a player, Chiesa. His injury list over the last couple of years is poor, but apparently he's one of Tonali's best mates as well. So thought there might have been a little bit of connection between those two, which might have seen him come to Newcastle for that price. But we've been talking about free transfers as well, lads, on NUFC Matters this week, and it's been lists of names drawn up, but the lists look great in principle, for players who are available. But I bet when it comes down to the nitty gritty, and you're sitting down saying, right, what do you want? What do you want per week for your wages? The words, the words coming out. Yeah, exactly. 200,000, 150, 200,000 pounds. Is that a year?
Have you seen Tony's contract? Let's talk.
So yeah, it's been disappointing, lads. I'm glad the window is shut. Most Newcastle fans will feel like they want to super glue it for now. But it's
Can we all agree that the window should be shut before we start playing? Are we all on that same page? Yeah.
Yeah.
I 100% do not think a ball should be kicked unless the transfer window is shut, because the playing, especially for us, Ted, because it's 2-3 games into the season for us. I mean, with Jack Clark, do you know what I mean? It just throws so much. Sorry? Yeah, exactly. Do you know what I mean? And then obviously we saw it with Latte Lath on deadline day, with Ipswich coming in with a £20 million move for our main striker, and then he's upset, and then he has to have talks. You know what I mean? And we got a game the next day. Do you know what I mean? And then he rocks up, and it's just a mess. So I honestly need them to look at this, and I hope they do one day. And I'm not sure they will. I don't understand why we can't shut that window before we kick a ball. It makes no sense.
And do away with the winter one as well for me, because that winter one is just you held to ransom. Mm-hmm. So let's say, both of you, we had injury problems of our own last season, but not in the same sort of realms as what Newcastle and Middlesbrough did. And the fact that, let's say, Middlesbrough are looking for a right back in that time, and they're really in need of one. Everybody else in the sort of the lower half of the Premier League, the Championship, are all going, Middlesbrough need a right back. That's let's put another 50% on the price. Yeah. And it just, it is. It just holds everybody to a ransom, like I say. What we did talk about last week, Rai, as well, obviously, transfer dealings. I actually said to Steve, probably the best bit of business that Middlesbrough did all summer was not letting go of Latte Lath. I think that was absolutely, that's key to the whole season for you. But in terms of the signings that come in, Rai, are you happy with the business that was done?
Yeah, definitely. I think I said this, and I actually spoke to our recruitment staff as well. I thought it was one of the best windows we've ever had in terms of not breaking the bank, and holding on to Latte Lath. And honestly, the biggest things for us was getting Carrick on a new deal, Riley McGree on a new deal as well. And then we added to it with, Aidan Morris, who is Captain America. If you've seen the Avengers, we've actually gotten him into the Middlesbrough Football Club. It's incredible. Our American, genius. And we've just added so much more depth. And I think, and Carrick said this to Craig Johns, CJ Scoops yesterday, that look, we've already got some injuries already showing. We've got one fit centre back out of the 4. Do you know what I mean? And that one fit centre back, by the way, is our top scorer. And then we go and add Edmondson from Ipswich, obviously. So that he's now, look, we've got these injuries, but we've got this depth now, and we've got a squad that is capable of dealing with such a long time in the Championship, especially with the injuries. So we had a fantastic summer, holding on to the big boys, getting new deals for Carrick, for Riley McGree as well. Then you add to, with just, even these, odds, you get Sammy Silvera out on a loan as well. So you can have a look at him, Josh Coburn, who all the Borough fans, he's one of our own. We want to see what he can do. He's now at our level at Millwall, playing in the style that's going to suit him. We saw his very first game, he went and scored. So, we've done really well in moving some players out as well that we're probably going to be on the fringe. And then obviously, bringing the players we brought in, it's been fantastic, and one of the best windows I've seen in a long time.
Absolutely. It's I guess you touched on it there as well. Is holding on to star players. Obviously, in terms of ours, we didn't. No, 15 to 20 million pounds for Jack Clark. There's a little bit of a rumbling among Sunderland fans about that, saying it's a little bit on the cheap, but included in that is a whopping great sell-on fee as well. And I think he will move on from Ipswich. I think this is a shop window for him. I don't think Ipswich still have the staff to actually stay up. Although I do like the look of Delap. The game last weekend. He looks like a proper busy centre forward. Him, he's really robust. He's kind of he's like Drogba, but without all that falling over. It's kind of he looks great. He looks built for
Yeah.
the Premier League as well. But I still think it's one of those where I don't think we're going to miss him too much, to be honest. What you got to
Okay.
bear in mind is Romain Mundle actually
Yeah.
he was at Spurs, and Spurs let Jack Clark go because they had Romain Mundle in their youth team, and they fancied him as a better prospect. And what I noticed is that Portsmouth game last weekend is Mundle's actually keen to take a shot with his left foot as well as his right foot, and it was a great finish at the near post. And he looks a bit more physically imposing than what Jack Clark does. Well, guess what I'm driving at here, lads, is, when you lose that star player, is there any one of those where it surprised you with how good the replacement's been? Because, I mean, Steve, you've seen absolutely fantastic players come and go from there. I'm thinking the likes of Ben Arthur, who's frustrated a lot of Newcastle fans, but was an absolute God-given talent, without a doubt. Is there any one of those where you think like it has really surprised you at how little you miss them after they've gone?
I guess probably in recent times, ASM, probably for a lot of the fan base, certainly the comparison between him and Ben Arthur is there for all to see, a bit of an enigma, somebody who used to get like the crowd out of their seats. But whereas I think people who are in that over 50 category, we've seen these players come and go. It wasn't any hardship for us. The younger members of the fan base really struggled when ASM left, So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the fan base are surprised, that they haven't missed ASM as much. I'm not surprised. As I say, certain people over a certain age, are used to these kind of things happening. You were touching on players that have come in. It's been disappointing for us. We've, of course, had Paul Mitchell, who's come out and spoken this week. Delighted that he's spoken. He didn't have to, our new sporting director. But I guess what he's done is, you can read it two ways. We can look at it and say, okay, he's spoken, and it looks to me as if he's feathering his own nest, protecting his own reputation, and more or less saying that transfer window wasn't really anything to do with me because I came in late. Now, I said that before he spoke. I said you can't lay any blame at his door for the lack of transfers because he's only been in the job 5 minutes. But he quite clearly, mentioned obviously the situations which we all wanted to know about, which was how much control does Eddie Howe have? What did happen with the Gahey transfer? So he opened up and told us about it. It's up to us whether we believe it or not, So it's been a disappointing window in a lot of ways for Newcastle. But what you were talking about was players not leaving. We didn't lose Bruno, Isak, or Gordon. So in terms of not losing those three players, it's been a huge success. And we've just got to hope, really, that moving forward, that we can get into Europe, and that will, of course, give these players a reason to stay. My concern is if we have a poor window in January and then don't qualify for Europe, we might struggle to keep a hold of these players. I think we'll finish in your European spot. But yeah, it's interesting. Disappointing window. Glad it's closed, but glad we didn't lose anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Anthony Gordon as well, I actually watched the England match last night. I don't know, my thoughts on international football are senseless, but being as I'd watched all of my UFO documentary and all of my Bigfoot documentary, I had nothing else to watch, so I was forced to watch England. And to be honest, I was pleasantly surprised in the first half. I thought Anthony Gordon had an absolutely fantastic game, Steve. Sticks in my throat, complimenting the mag and all that, obviously, but I thought it was terrific. Between him, Declan Rice, I thought Grealish had a fantastic game as well. Really kind of stuck in the Irish throats with Grealish and Rice having such good games as well, having worn the badge and even kissed the badge as well, which is just don't do that. Don't do that if you're gonna move on. Dear me. But were you impressed with Anthony Gordon? Because like as a Sunderland fan, I thought he had a terrific game. He really worried the defence at times as well.
I was out with my dad yesterday, so I was watching it through my good eye. But it was it wasn't a bad performance. I thought Anthony Gordon probably stood out amongst them all. A lot of controversy whipped up around the game with Lee Carsley refusing to sing the national anthem. Obviously, then sitting in the wrong dugout at the start of the match. You just couldn't write it, could you? And I think a lot of the press, who have been championing for Eddie Howe to get the job, so that he leaves Newcastle were the same ones having a pop at Carsley, you know. So I think there is an agenda there for how to have that job by hook or by crook by some of the nationals. But yeah, it wasn't bad. I'm not a fan of this competition, mind. World Cup, Euros, fine. Nations League, really? You know,
it's a bit much.
It is. It's like the tournoi, you know, which you know we won, of course, with you know, Shearer et al. Playing in the team, but I just think it's a pointless exercise. You know, we're going to have friendlies. We know that they're just trying to monetize friendlies to, you know, to suit an agenda, and it's not for me. The home nations are always good. They're always interesting whenever you play Ireland, Scotland, Wales, whenever they play each other. But yeah, England were just too good last night, and I just can't abide, as we know from, you know, the full year of shows we did last year. We can't abide doing international breaks. You know, it completely throws a spoke in your works, especially when you're riding high like Sunderland and, you know, Newcastle, of course, not played particularly well, but still unbeaten. And yeah, and international break spoils that, lads. You know, so I'm not a fan of it. Not a fan.
Yeah, no, not at all. Not at all. Bit of a strange one. Obviously, Raheem Sterling was actually linked with Newcastle as well, apparently. That bit of a strange one. I mean, he's now completed that FIFA meme. He's played for all of the top four. Obviously, I think the move to Arsenal that seems a strange one, because do they need him? It's just the weirdest loan move I think I've ever seen. What did you make of that? Do you think he's past his best? Do you think he's worth it?
Well, before I gives his opinion, I think Raheem Sterling still got a lot to offer. I think he's a really good player and still a Premier League player. I think he's probably time at international levels come to an end, but I think he can still do a job for, you know, one of the top six. And he's got an opportunity to go to Arsenal, which he'd be over the moon about, because he stays in London. I think he could be, you know, he could play a big part. I mean, it really depends. He's got to find his way into the team first of all. But what an option for Arteta to have. Didn't lose anybody, made some improvements, and now he's brought in Raheem Sterling as somebody who can come in and change the game in a different direction. So, and somebody who's got a point to prove as well. So I think it's a good move. Newcastle, paper talk, I think. Barry Hogan, who's in the chat there today. Barry, of course, is the one who does the spreadsheet for NUFC Matters during the season. During the transfer window, 220 players linked with Newcastle, and we didn't sign one of them. So, and he does a spreadsheet each day. He trolls the internet and finds another player that we've been linked with. That just tells you, you know, Raheem Sterling was on that bit of paper.
Wow,
fantastic. What do you reckon, Mike? Because for me, it still strikes me. I do agree with Steve to a certain extent that, you know, it's a player that's still got a bit to prove. But I just feel like top four teams are kind of just becoming a little bit out of his reach now. Were you surprised Arsenal went for him?
I think just firstly, I mean, you know, you can see the levels of Newcastle here as well. I mean, with Raheem Sterling, Ruddy, you know what I mean? I mean, they're both, you know, equal, you know, page there. And, you know, to get Ruddy and not Sterling, I think makes total sense. But, you know, look, I think one thing for me that was, you know, was hard to see was just how upsetting it must be as a Chelsea fan to not be able to, you know, buy everyone. You know what I mean? Because you know, at some point, you know, you can only put 11 players on the pitch. So, and I think that's frustrating. And I think Todd Bowley, obviously the American owner of Chelsea, probably used to NFL, where they've got, you know, special teams, offense, defense. There's 11 players in football, Todd, and unfortunately, you know, you can't put all of your 83 players that you've bought, including the 16 goalkeepers. So, you know, Sterling was just a byproduct of that. And, you know, he's a fantastic player. He's gone from Chelsea starter last season to, oh my goodness, there's now 6 players in front of me. What can I do? And he's obviously got a relationship there with Arteta, which has come in and sort of saved the day. He said that because obviously the Man City link up there when Arteta was, you know, the assistant coach there, they obviously had some sort of, you know, good connection. You saw it coming as well, because Arteta comes out in the press straight away and says, I love, you know, what Raheem is all about, and, you know, can he do that? And to be honest with you, Arsenal are kind of making a success of these good players from the Premier League. We saw Gabriel Jesus coming from Man City to Arsenal. You know what I mean? We've got Odegaard You know what I mean? Obviously, the young Real Madrid star, but now he's at Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? So now he's got a knack for, bringing these sort of forgotten Premier League stars back into the fold and finding a way. And I think, it's smart for Raheem, who wants to obviously still play at the highest level, like Steve said, stay in London as well. And, and also, it makes it easier to find a car park when you don't have 83 other players.
Well, the reason I was asking about strange loan deals is it's about time we brought a feature in, lads. And you know I love my features. I think What the Fact has been mentioned a few times, and that may have to come back eventually. At some point, What the Fact will have to come back. I missed that song. Yes, yeah. It's well, being as I arranged it, I guess it belongs to me, so I guess I can use it after all. So, so yeah, maybe that might come back. But I had a bit of a think. Now this is going to be tough to do every week because I'm not as funny as you, right? Most of the time. But I kind of had to think about some strange loan deals that could happen, feasibly somewhere in an alternate universe. So, Steve, have you got some audio ready for our first feature that we've ever delved into?
Yeah, we'll go.
Let's push this button.
Equity card at the ready.
A fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty hi-ho silverware. The Lone Arranger.
Oh my God!
So the first one we're going to look at. Thank you very much. Thank you. The first we're going to look at is a little bit timely because my best mate Dr. Mick is actually on his way over to Cyprus as we speak. But he's just messaged me to say that it looks like there's going to be a delay on his first flight, which is just superb. So yes, Chelsea is set to move for all of France's air traffic control as they look to solve that problem with regular strikers. Topical and political. Manchester City could be looking to the music world for an emergency loan deal. Liam Gallagher has been lined up as pet fee as they may concede too many goals in 7 years. Gallagher, of course, is seen as the perfect signing to act as a wonder wall. And finally, numerous clubs in the Saudi League were alerted to the fact Katie Price was interested in a temporary coaching role. However, an insider reported that there's been a misunderstanding regarding the number 2 position she was looking at.
Ted Gould.
That concludes your first ever Lone Arranger, lads.
Man.
My goodness.
Hang on,
no.
It's all in the word. My lawyer friend helped me with the wording for the last one. We're going to comment here. Steve doesn't know what silverware is, Ted. Can you let him know what it is? To be fair, the last one we won was the pizza cup, mate. So I don't think we can really brag too loudly about that one. I know Borough keep on bringing this thing up about winning the Carling Cup a few times.
2004, 20-year anniversary.
20 years. Can we really brag? Can we any of us really? Can we any of us really brag about winning a trophy 20 years ago? When does bragging rights end? You reckon?
Never. Till someone wins a new one. Come on. You can't count your pepperoni and cheese one. You know what I mean? You can't count anything else. Carling Cup is the most prestigious award that a club can win ever. And we won it 2004. It's better than the World Cup.
I mean, winning a cup 20 years ago, would Newcastle fans be still loading that up?
Well, of course, we're the last team to win a European Cup in the Northeast, 1969.
Very true. Yes. Very true.
Was that like the Fair Play trophy back then, or was it?
No. But you're right.
Just for the young people watching, because this is YouTube and it'll be full of young'uns. Can you just explain to us, Steve, what the Fairs Cup is now?
It's the Europa League, isn't it? That's what it is now. It used to be the UEFA, and now it's the Europa. So it's it's had a few transitions over the last couple of decades. But from our perspective, still the only Northeast team to win the European Cup, which is good. We are the only team, as Barry says. Well done, son. But yeah, look, I mean, bragging rights will go on, especially in the Northeast. I mean, we argue over the derbies, don't we? You know, we've got bragging rights in the derbies. So I guess, you know, Sunderland have the FA Cup, Middlesbrough have the League Cup, and Newcastle have a European Cup. So we've all got our own bragging rights, I guess.
Absolutely. And seeing that, I mean, Sunderland aren't going to be bothering the European scene for a long time, I don't think. But, right, I mean, even getting to a European final, that's something that's lauded above the Sunderland fans. Do you think, I mean, is that something to celebrate failure, even though, yes, you got there, that was an achievement, but essentially you didn't win a cup? Do you still think that's deserves the bragging rights that it still gets?
No. I mean, does it? I mean, nobody remembers who came second in the World Cup. Do you know what I mean? I mean, you know, everyone remembers, you know, the bloke that kissed the girl in the female World Cup, for goodness sake. Do you know what I mean? So it's no one follows runners up. I mean, it's like, you know, it's like, yeah, it just doesn't mean anything. I don't know. I guess I'm competitive by nature. Do you know what I mean? If you're in a competition, you want to win it all. If you finish second, it's nothing. It's like finishing third, fourth, fifth. You know what I mean? Everyone says, oh, how good our cup run was last year when we got, you know, battered by Chelsea, you know, a game or two out. But, you know, that doesn't mean anything because we didn't get to where we wanted to be, which would have been the final sort of thing. So, and then even if you lose the final, it's that feeling of loss, you know what I mean? So, yeah, no, I think I consider it like like the promotion game. You know what I mean? If you finish second, you don't get promoted. You know what I mean? It's exactly the same. You finish second, you know, in anything in football, and you just don't get it. So you chase that glory. You want to be number one.
I'd settle for second in the championship this season, mind. I've got to say.
I'd rather be first. I'd rather be first. Look, second, we went up to 2016, second in the championship. Nothing you can do. We still took it. Do you know what I mean? But to be able to go up as champions of the league, do you know what I mean? We as we saw with Burnley, you know, doing it at our backside, you know, in our territory, you know, the season before. So you want to go first for whatever it is. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, you know, if you can't go first in the championship, I think winning the playoff final is probably even bigger than coming second. I must say, you know, if you finish second in the championship, you are overshadowed by winning that playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, speaking of the cup games, I'm obviously disappointing for Middlesbrough that they're out of the League Cup this season. It's a competition that they do enjoy. Like I say, the
League Cup.
They tell you often enough about it, you know, from 20 years ago. But a bit of a disappointment there. But Steve, you actually predicted at the beginning of the season you were going to win the FA Cup this season. Did Newcastle fans still get a kick out of it? Because obviously, you know, they've had Champions League and they've been spoilt for fixtures the last couple of years. Is it something that the Newcastle fans still kind of hold in high regard? Is that something they really want this time around?
Yeah, definitely, because, you know, the League Cup or the FA Cup, either one of those in Newcastle's trophy cabinet would be immense. And, you know, of course, you know, you can get European football if you get to a cup final as well. But for me, the FA Cup's always been the more prestigious. The League Cup's always been the lesser chased after cup by the big teams. But I think when you see the squad that Eddie Howe put out and the team that Eddie Howe put out for that Forest game compared to the team that Forest put out, it tells you how important it is to Eddie Howe and the lads. You know, they're just desperate for silverware. They're desperate to win something. And you would probably go as far as saying that this season is probably more important than the first, you know, 2.5 seasons that Eddie's managed, especially if he's going to see this season through and doesn't jump ship or gets pushed halfway through to, you know, then take the England job. He's going to have to win something this season. You know, qualification for Europe will be good, especially if it's Champions League. You know, that probably guarantees you keeping a hold of your star players and bringing in some bigger names next time round. But you've got to win something, you know. And they always say if you win that trophy, then the rest follow. So we are waiting for our Man City moment, if you like, winning the League Cup. And if we can get it and do it, great stuff, you know. That's the aim. But I've just got a feeling the FA Cup. I think we we haven't had a good run like in the FA Cup. We haven't had a run to the final for such a long time, and I've just got a feeling that, with it being, as Donald says in the chat, part of Newcastle's heritage, because of those wonderful FA Cup wins in the 50s, up until like the late 70s, early 80s, Newcastle and Arsenal, I think, and Liverpool were the teams that are the most appearances in the cup final before, the dominance of Liverpool and then Manchester United and then Man City. So for us, a cup's important, but I think it's almost a necessity to at least get to a final and win a final this year for Eddie Howe in particular,
What would you prefer, Rye? Would you prefer a playoff final win, or would you prefer an FA Cup final win?
Playoff final. I mean, FA Cup would be fantastic, but we need to get back to the Premier League. Do you know what I mean? That's what that's what we need to be as a Northeast football club. You know what I mean? That's what Sunderland and Middlesbrough are striving for, to be back in the Premier League. I would take the Premier League over that. Now, look, we all know the gap between Championship and the Premier League is getting larger and larger. So I think, getting there sooner is going to, with the money and all that sort of stuff, now's the time to strike. So yeah, 100% I would take, the Premier League, FA Cup and the Carling Cup the Carabao Cup. I apologize, Carabao. I think when you lose, when you go out of that cup, the first thing everyone says is, well, it allows us to focus on the league. And that's what it should be when you're not in the Premier League, so the goal for Middlesbrough this season isn't FA Cup. It isn't Carabao Cup. It is trying to get promoted. We've invested, we've held on to Latte, we've held on to these big boys. It's to get to the Premier League, and that's what we should be going for.
Hey, good news as well, lads, by the way, Ted, just before you give your opinion, I found this. Bruce has found the kebab shop in Blackpool.
Oh my word! Oh, that's typical, isn't it? Dear me.
Finally, that resume. Finally, after all the applications he went through, he finally got the resume right for one club. I couldn't believe it when I saw it. I obviously texted you guys in the WhatsApp group and just wake up to the news. Brucey's back. I tell you, wow, it's incredible, isn't it?
How does he keep on getting jobs?
How
does he do it, lads?
Because he goes in cheap, doesn't he? It's tried and tested. He goes in on a cheap rate, which is why Ashley signed him on. I'm sure that the lawyers don't read the small print, because when he gets sacked, he gets a great payoff. So I think he does. I think that's what he does. And I think maybe chairman think, well, okay, short term, it's a good idea. They don't think long term that the team's going to be affected that badly by his non-coaching methods, that he's then going to be sacked and it's going to cost him an absolute fortune, Is
League One his level? Is League One that level that he's at, though? I mean, surely at some
insult
point...
the League One.
Stanley and District.
Got it.
How's the donkeys? Did you see? I mean, he's gone to Blackpool, honestly, and Blackpool has got a reputation.
Ian Holloway,
a car crash club. It's a car crash waiting to happen. Those two together.
Steady on, my missus is listening.
I'm
sure they're very nice. I'm getting a message here that apparently I need to lift my blind up because I look like a Bond villain.
Oh,
I've just disappeared into the shade. Some sinister character in the background. Bear with me 1 minute, lads. I'll just make a little alteration. It's all right. We'll edit this bit
out.
Amongst
yourselves.
We'll edit this bit out.
It's live, Ted.
Whatever.
I'll tell you what, Ryan. Let's. Stephen Kennedy sent this in for us. Finish this sentence.
Yes.
The best smell in the world is.
Jeez.
Oh. Do you know what? For me, a curry.
Curry. I was going to say
for me,
donut.
Curry.
Like cinnamon donuts, like hot donut smell, like that for me. Walking past the donut store, oh my goodness me.
Petrol.
What?
Petrol. Do you not like smelling petrol at the garage?
No.
Yeah. Loads of people like smelling petrol at the garage. No, I don't mean like going up and like.
Is this really happening?
You know when you sit. You know when you sit at
98.
You know when you sit at the garage and like the petrol's getting filled. Loads of people like the smell of petrol. Never heard that before. Yeah,
Never, ever in my life have I heard that.
Yeah.
I used to don't
Matches
try
being
this at home,
struck,
kids.
not next
Yes,
to petrol.
love that.
Not next to petrol.
no, definitely not. Definitely not. It's
Elon
matches
Musk
being
begs
struck.
to differ.
I tell you what, I used to love. This is a weird one. This is very niche. I don't know what sort of rabbit hole we've just gone down. It is still the Northeast Footy
Sniffing
podcast,
petrol.
but just bear with me. Steve, you'll recognise this one. I think there's only the Northeast used to do this. We never used to be able to afford pumpkins at Halloween, right?
Right.
We used to carve turnips, right?
Okay.
Or Swedes, depending on where you're from. The smell of the candle being blown out in a turnip at Halloween is one of my favourite smells ever.
See, that just makes petrol sound normal now.
Nothing will ever make sniffing petrol sound normal, Steve. I'll guarantee you. Can we do a poll on this?
With it being Sunday as well, we seem to be going down a religious. Tom says fish. Burafan says bread.
Bread, fresh bread.
Fish and loaves. Anyone going to chuck some wine in? When I was a window cleaner, says Stephen Horn, he liked the smell of bacon cooking or onions.
How's the bacon?
How's the bacon, did you say? Thanks, Steve.
And we're back to I tell you what, seamless.
Paul Kapoor says Tom's been sniffing glue. The smell of the hoppings, says Les.
Do you know what? I mean, we didn't have the hoppings, obviously. I had Horton Feast. I was affectionately known as in the areas Horton Fight. But yeah, that smell of like sort of it's a mix of like disappointment, and horrible cheeseburgers, but you still love it anyway.
Leslie, are you sure it's not droppings?
No. The weird thing, so my dad, bless him, it would have been my dad's birthday today, actually. So it's quite a poignant one, this. So my dad used to live out in Weardale, Steve, Wolsingham and all that kind of area. And travelling through to there and smelling the cow muck, the smell of cow muck in the air. Do you know what? I love that smell still to this day. I miss that. I miss that. So
I think the clear thing is that it's not maybe the smell. It's sometimes what's attached to the smell, maybe the memory or the area. Yeah. I mean, the Christmas time. Do you know what I mean? Sort of thing. So I think that obviously goes a long way in saying it as well. It's a good question. But petrol is. We're gonna get Steve investigated after the pod. Don't worry. We're gonna have that looked into very much.
Stephen Kennedy always brings great questions. I mean, this is a great one. Says that's the worst confession I've heard since Gary Horsfield admitted he used to go to sites where there have been fatal disasters and collect mementos, which is a strange one. And Stephen Horn says the smell of paraffin heaters from the blackout days in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Paraffin is paraffin over petrol, definitely. Yeah, give me paraffin over that. That's I get that. Do you know what? You've mentioned it now, and it kind of reminds me. Sunderland used to have this massive, sort of enclosed indoor bus station. It was near the Crowtree Leisure Centre back in the day. Steve, you remember that from your school days? Yeah, that one. Now that had its own unique smell about the place. That was kind of like this burnt out diesel kind of weird smell. I used to enjoy that, but the smell that takes me back to my childhood more than anything was going through the town and smelling the hops from Vaux breweries. Everyone's taste. It used to make a lot of people feel a little bit sick, but that smell just. And it's right what you say, right? It takes you back to a time and a place rather than
exactly. That's the thing, doesn't it? It's the connection and the.
What have we started here? I'm looking at the comments, going the bread aisle in Ulster.
The Northeast food.
Honestly, I couldn't agree more.
It's international week, lad.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Well, I guess on international,
not that we're struggling for content.
just international, just quickly. Obviously, England had a good win. Australia, mind you. Not very good, losing 1-0 to Bahrain, obviously on Thursday night on our own soil as well. We're not talking about that either. Red card for Cassini Yengi, obviously the Portsmouth striker, obviously Australian as well. Yeah, Australia going down 1-0, which is called for Graham Arnold, our current coach's sacking. It's been a long time coming for Graham Arnold. Every time he seems to slip up, it seems to be right at the doorstep of him getting the sack. But Australia will be playing again on Tuesday night, much like everyone else around the world. Will be traveling to Indonesia to see if we can do much better. But apparently the humidity there is absolutely disastrously hot. So the lads are not feeling it too good at the moment. But yeah, Australia going down 1-0 was a bit of a shock across our shores, obviously, especially in the Gold Coast. First time that the Socceroos have played there, which is a very renowned, touristy sort of hot spot. And not a good performance, lads. Not a good performance at all by Australians' new footballing standards, I must say.
Who would have thought as well that San Marino would have had more wins this season than Everton?
That was incredible, wasn't it?
San Marino. I'm on board. I'm on board. Can we move there?
20 years. That's it. 20 years.
That's incredible. That what a performance like.
Fair play. Do you know what? I mean, we've all played a little bit of football now at time. I used to play in the Stockton Sunday League, and we had a team there. Yeah, go on, then I'll name and shame them. There was a pub team called the Oxbridge, right? Yeah. And honestly, these lads used to get absolutely trounced every single week. I mean, we had a half decent side, and we were putting 11 and 12 past them. It was just like, but every single week they got stuffed. I think in the time that I played in that league, I saw them pick up 1 point. Like in all of that time, they were horrendous, and it just makes you think, like, what sort of mentality must those lads have to actually turn up every single week and get a game? It's Steve, you've seen it. You'll have seen teams like this. Should these lads like be commended, or should they be maybe just rushed into some sort of assessment hospital?
Yeah, I mean, there's playing for the love of the game, isn't there? And playing to get, getting beaten every week. I mean, I guess every division has them in Sunday League football, especially. We used to see them week in, week out. Teams getting beaten 7, 8, 9s, 10s. Referees blowing the game over early just to save more embarrassing score lines. But yeah, some of them just play it for the crack. You know what I mean? And that's just the way it is. But yeah, these international teams like Gibraltar, San Marino, they literally do turn up. They're playing in front of nobody, and they're just literally going through the motions. But I mean, who can forget that day that San Marino scored after 30 seconds against England? The guy scored the goal. I think he got a car, didn't he, for doing it? Yeah. I mean, it's like they're literally instant national heroes.
Yeah, they are.
But imagine what these guys must be like this week. They must be getting the equivalent of a knighthood in their country now. Fascinating.
That's what I say. Knight them all. Knight them all. What a win.
Yeah.
Absolutely unreal. I mean, saying that Liechtenstein must be absolutely devastated with that.
Oh my!
They've now got to live with
on the back end of that as well. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, we're the team that lost to San Marino.
That wouldn't have been a nice trip home for anybody. I'm assuming the goalkeeper was driving the bus as well. But it's absolutely horrendous. But the real football is going to be back next weekend, lads. We've got about 10 minutes left of this week's show. Rye, well, I will start with you, being as you've been missing. I think we should put you under the spot a little bit. Who have you got? And tell us about the next game for the Borough.
Middlesbrough have got Preston at North End. We're back at home on the Riverside. We've got the 3 p.m. kickoff as well. The big game is the one after that, I must say. But obviously, Middlesbrough against Preston. Preston have got Sam Greenwood. Those will remember the Sam Greenwood free kick for the Borough last season, or my neighbours will remember the reaction that I had to it. He's now on loan at Preston. It's going to be an interesting game because we've now got the team. We've got the signings. Everything's settled. We got this Ben Doak, this young 18-year-old up from Liverpool who's meant to be absolute star. Edmondson coming in for a centre-back defensive display. Riley McGree, who I was answering, in the chat as well. He's texted. I was chatting to him just the other day, especially about the Socceroos, and he was saying he's fit, ready to go. So, we got this star, aligned squad now. Touch wood, no more injuries. This is the time we now put the foot down and we have to start, beating teams at home, especially, and teams like Preston. So, going to be a great watch once again to see how Carrick handles it. And a big shout out to Carrick, who played yesterday for the Man United Legends. Did you guys see this? Wayne Rooney scoring a free kick for the Man United Legends. Absolute stellar of a free kick. Wayne Rooney with, his beer gut and all, puts one over the wall, top left corner. And Michael Carrick had man of the match performance. My gaffer for the Man United Legends yesterday. So I think it was against the Celtic Legends. I could be wrong, but it was for charity, helping the obviously, a few foundations there. So it was good to see my gaffer out there running around with boots on. But yeah, Middlesbrough off to Preston. It'll be a 3 p.m. kickoff, and we need to put the foot down.
Yeah, I think it's time that Borough started turning that around, because it's been a stuttering start of the season.
100%.
Unlike your neighbours up the road, of course. We've hit the ground running. 4 out of 4. Funnily enough, we've actually got winless Wayne Rooney up next away at Plymouth 3:00 next Saturday.
He might play.
Couldn't do any worse at the minute.
No.
He's certainly not a manager, is he?
No.
Yeah, so listen, I don't like speaking too soon about a place like this. They've obviously got, the name's just left me. Morgan
Whittaker. Yeah,
thank you, Morgan Whittaker.
Yeah.
Very, very dangerous talent. I'm amazed he's still at the club.
Rooney's turned him into something shocking, though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
These are the games, though, Ted, where you look at and you go, that's a win. And that's what scares me with Sunderland, because the past 4, no. Do you know what I mean? Like Burnley, and obviously like that, maybe Portsmouth and stuff like that. But it's going to be interesting to see, obviously, now how Sunderland come back after the international break, because honestly, I don't think anyone in their right mind, championship level, had Sunderland top this stage.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, it's everything kind of points to a Sunderland win, which is always dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, listen, we've got to go there and show the same kind of no fear approach to the football. I still fancy us to get 3 points out of this one. I think at some stage we've already conceded our first league goal of the season, courtesy of a Luke O'Nien own goal, which I was furious about at the time. But to be fair, it's he's actually had a very good start of the season, in all fairness to him. So yeah, I reckon 3 points for us as well. Steve, who have you got? You're on Sunday, aren't you?
Sunday next week. So our show will be next Saturday at 1:30 in the afternoon.
I'll apologise in advance for that one, because I'm coming off the back of a night out in Iron Apple.
Exactly.
And I'm pre-Borough, so I'll be all Red Bulled up.
You will be, mate. You will be. 4:30 kickoff next Sunday for Newcastle live on Sky. Wolves away. Big game again for us, because we got to an unbeaten start of the season, which is remarkable. 7 points out of 9. And Newcastle have got to really up the game. We've had, obviously, success for our international players, which has been fantastic to see. You've already mentioned Anthony Gordon playing well for England yesterday. Played his part superbly.
Tonali back as well, wasn't he?
Tonali with a wonderful assist for it. Straight back in and played
straight back in.
Yeah,
played 90 minutes for
incredible,
Italy, and pulled all the strings in a 3-1 win. Provided a wonderful assist. If you haven't seen it, you'll be able to catch it on social media. Superb. Lewis Hall played as well. Asula scored 4 goals now. He's gotten 3 qualifying games for the England for the under-21. So good for his confidence as well. Bruno won the game with the first half goal, a 1-0 win. So Bruno, his tail will be up as well. And Miguel Almiron, of course, was playing for Paraguay. He started the game, played 82 minutes. So all in all, a good first set of games internationally. And Newcastle's players who were on Tyneside have been putting the training in. We've seen some photographs of the likes of Longstaff and Kieran Trippier put out this week. So yeah, the lads who are back home and who aren't on international duty are putting the work in as well. So yeah, I fancy Newcastle to go there. Look, Wolves, it's a funny ground for us. We go down there, and it's not one where Wolves dominate games, but we've won some, we've drawn some, we've lost some in the last 3 or 4 games. I think probably the formalist would say that this is probably going to be another draw. So Newcastle need to up their game to find something, but I'm going to take Newcastle to win 2-1. I think the return of Callum Wilson potentially as well this weekend gives Newcastle a different option on the bench. So I'm going for a Newcastle 2-1 win at the weekend, and hopefully Callum Wilson and Joe Willock, and of course Fabian Schär's back from suspension, can all play a part at Molineux.
I think the plus of this international break so far is it looks like, and touch wood, that all of the players are going to come back relatively injury-free.
Yeah,
so it's
crossed.
A few of them may be doing the Great North Run today, Steve, just to build some fitness up, do you think? Or do you think that's a little bit out the question?
I mean, I've been watching the coverage this morning. It's BBC do
great
great coverage.
Great run.
They do great coverage of that, and I mean, you're talking about, lots and lots of people in the Northeast running, raising lots of money for charity.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Weather was horrendous for everybody else other than the runners. The runners, you could see the smile on their faces as they were running this morning, because literally, the last year I think it was like a real hot day. So this year it's been chucking it down. But yeah, great to see, and it's a Northeast event. The Great North Run, still the best run up and down the country. No doubt about it.
Without a doubt. I've got Big Nige, who's taken part in this show a few times, one of my closest mates. He's out there running it. Now, Nige, he won't mind me saying this, and he'll probably listen back to it, and I'll probably get a message, quite an angry one, on WhatsApp later on. Nige is a bit of a unit, right? He's a good 6'4", 6'5". He's carrying a bit of timber on him. The fact that he's out there and he's trained for this and he's going to do this, not the first Great North Run he's done. He does it year after year. So I'm really proud of Nige. My niece is running it. And my great nephew, I know this makes us sound very, very old, but my great nephew actually ran it yesterday. Rise doing the maths. Take your socks off, mate.
God. He's used to doing that with goals going in.
70.
Especially in cup games. Sorry, Ryan.
I'm away next week.
So, Ryan, you're going to be in charge next week, mate.
Yes.
Do you want me to continue with the Lone Ranger, or
get it in? I honestly want a cheeky. You know what I want? We'll call it back. Okay. I want it back. I need the song. I want it back. Bring it back, please. Bring it back. Now it's going to be a great week. Obviously, we'll have football galore. It'll be just pre Borough and Sunderland kickoff, and obviously
we'll have. Poo. Did you see that?
Yeah, I think I did actually. Yeah, probably. It's late here. I'm on Australian time. I'm going to go.
We've had worse comments.
One all draw. We can obviously predict the scores next week, can't we? Because we'll be pre-shows. But I was going to go 1-1 draw for Newcastle. But it'll be my show next week. We're interesting to get on a show just before kickoffs for our two games. And shout out to Sunderland as well. Obviously in the Northeast, the Plymouth trip is never an easy one for anyone in the Championship, especially. And thank goodness Sky Sports haven't put you on the early shift like we had for Cardiff last time out. So shout out to the Sunderland fans making the trip because it's one of the longest ones you can do down to Plymouth, obviously. And honestly, the away support, I think, for all three clubs this season has been phenomenal.
Tremendous.
We had a sold out side, on an early kickoff for Cardiff. You know what I mean? So, we sold it out. So, that was you're talking 4 a.m. sort of get-ups for people, and it's no different when it comes to Plymouth and all that as well. So, to all the fans of the three Northeast clubs, we obviously, due to where we're based, we got some big trips, but it's, two, obviously Middlesbrough at home, but you two away.
Good luck to everybody else as well who was trying to get Oasis tickets because obviously they're putting 2 more gigs on and some. Did
you get them?
No.
We were actually doing this live as well.
Yeah,
you were in the queue, weren't you? In last week?
Didn't get them.
Didn't get any, no.
So
what I'm going to have to do is probably take second best and go for these tickets. Bananarama are making a comeback, so I'll probably get tickets for that.
Get in. I love me some banana. 100%. Get in.
I think they do. Anyway. On that note.
See you next week, lads.
See you next week. What's the fact?